The Seattle Mariners absolutely blow a lead to the Tampa Bay Rays. 4-3 was the final tally. This is a Mariners postgame show brought by the NW Sportscast. And guys, there's no other way to say this than this was such a deflating loss. The Mariners, they were looking pretty good going into that bottom of the 8th inning. 2 outs, nobody on, and just batter after batter, to the Tampa Bay Rays' credit, was just able to keep the line moving, and it all kind of led to an eruption in a 2 RBI hit by Diaz, I believe it was, and that kind of was the big momentum shifter. The Mariners are unable to battle back in the top of the 9th. It's unfortunate. Austin Voth and Andres Munoz were both the 2 pitchers that kind of blew that one. Munoz in particular looked really, really poor out there. Did just give up the 1 hit, but it was the 1 earned run. And overall, the Mariners just need to be better in these crucial situations. It's very, very frustrating. The Mariners have now dropped, what is that, 3 of their last 4, something along those lines. They lose the series to both the Guardians and the Marlins, and now they are in danger of losing the series to the Rays tomorrow in a game that the Mariners probably should have won. However, you could look at it the other way and say that the Mariners were kind of in a lucky scenario just being in that position to win the game in that bottom of the 8th and 9th inning. Only 3 hits today for the Seattle Mariners. Compare that to the Rays, who had 11, and it's clear what offense played better. The Mariners were really aided by a couple of big home runs, one by Cal Raleigh. A 97-mile-per-hour fastball was just left in the middle of the plate, and Raleigh got all of it. Cal sent one into the big, deep right field seats and gives the Mariners a 1-0 lead. The Rays respond, and then it is Mitch Garver who in the top of the 7th destroys another baseball. It was two home runs for the Mariners that put them on the board, and they were absolutely crushed. No doubters. He gives a 2-run RBI home run. And then, obviously, the bottom of the 8th happened. The Mariners fall 4-3. My overall takeaways of this game is the offense needs to be better. I'm going to talk about Brian Wu. I'm going to talk about his, I believe it's his hamstring injury, what I saw out of him, and what I think that means going in the future. But my biggest takeaway from this game is the Mariners' offense is just simply not good enough right now. You look at the 1 through 9, and there's not one player right now in this lineup where it feels like the Rays kind of have to battle around, where they have to really lock in and focus. It's just there's not one guy where you're scared of. And that is not something that as a team you want to have. You don't want to have 9 guys that the other opposing pitcher feels confident against. You want to keep him on his back foot. You want to feel like the momentum is always with you with these certain guys. And right now, Julio Rodriguez is not able to kind of bring that fear factor that we all have been expecting from him the last couple of years to this lineup. Cal Raleigh, despite the big home run, he doesn't bring that either. His average is, somewhere around 220, I believe. And the rest of the lineup doesn't provide much. You've got Luke Raley. He's a good player, but doesn't scare you. J.P. Crawford at the leadoff position. He went 1 for 3, had the only other hit, the only non-home run hit for the Mariners. He took 2 walks as well, but he doesn't scare you either. There's just not a guy in this lineup that is either A, really hot, like we've seen Dylan Moore and Josh Rojas, guys like that right now, or B, there's just not a superstar right now in this lineup. And Julio Rodriguez, I think he's a star, yes, but I think he has regressed from that superstar status this year. And it's getting to the point where Julio Rodriguez, you got to think, is this kind of just what Julio is? Maybe this is on the lower side of what Julio is, but maybe what we saw last year in August and September is kind of the absolute height and the abnormal of what Julio actually is, and this is closer to the average of that. This offense just simply not good enough, and it reinforces the fact that the Mariners really need to spend at this deadline. A loss to the Rays, who are now climbing and are now I believe they're either 39-40 or 40-40, so they're right around 500. But you're a team that's 9 games above, and you gotta figure out ways to win this ball game. And a game the Mariners didn't play well. The pitching didn't do great either, but they were able to get guys out with runners in scoring position consistently in the game. That was great to see until it all blew up in the bottom of the 8th. I'm not going to blame the pitching on this. I'm going to blame the offense once again. It always goes back to just putting the ball in play and getting singles, getting doubles, not always needing to go yard, taking your walks, and unfortunately that just wasn't able to be done today for the Mariners. A couple of notes before I get on out of here. Bryan Woo, he went down with a hamstring injury, and Woo is just, you got to feel for the guy. As a Mariner fan, it sucks. You're constantly feeling like you're kind of walking on eggshells, at least I do, when I watch Bryan Woo pitch. And it's not because I think he might be giving up that one big blow-up start, or if he's going to give up a home run. I'm not walking on eggshells because of that. I'm nervous because I think that Bryan Woo is one of the more injury-prone players right now in the 26-man roster. Unfortunately, it's been a myriad of different injuries. It hasn't just been the one thing that's been haunting him. He had the right shoulder injury. Now he's having the hamstring injury. Those are two completely different things. And look, if you look at the bright side of this, yes, you would rather it be a hamstring injury than like a shoulder or a forearm thing on his pitching arm for sure. This is something that maybe he just needs to kind of kink out in the next 5 days and he should be good to go. But there is definitely a possibility that this could be a little bit more than just he was a little tight in this game. I really hope he didn't pull his hamstring to a significant level where he's going to be out and on the 10-day IL, because Bryan Woo is a really good pitcher, and he showed it again today. 3 innings pitched, gave up the 5 hits, but just the 1 earned run and 3 strikeouts. And I think he was going to go 5-6 innings of 1 or 2 earned run ball. And that's kind of the vibe I got when I was listening on the radio. I listened to the radio today while doing it. And that's kind of what Bryan Woo, I think, was going to give. Unfortunately, he does go down. Shout out to Trent Thornton. He's going to be my player of the game today. He comes in 1 2/3, 3 strikeouts. And when a pitcher either has a blow-up start and they leave the game early, they get injured, or they're not feeling great and they have to leave in the 3rd, 4th inning, you need a long reliever to come in and put, the team on their back, essentially. They don't get all the preparation. They don't get 5 days in between their big starts. But Trent Thornton comes in, and he takes the 4th and 5th inning, 3 strikeouts, doesn't give up a single hit. Mike Baumann comes in. The whole bullpen was honestly super solid. Not just solid, they were elite up until Austin Voth and Andres Munoz. And unfortunately, that was the difference maker. And if you want to blame it on the bullpen, fine. But I think the bullpen, as far as Bryan Woo leaving this game really, really early, they did great. Unfortunately, the Mariners now have used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They used 7 pitchers in this game, 6 from the bullpen in a loss. Not only does that mean that you use 6 pitchers and it ultimately didn't matter, but it does set you up to tomorrow's game where you have to think, shoot, is Andres Munoz good to go? Is Thornton good to go after throwing 1 2/3? Probably not. Is Baumann? Is Stanek? Stanek just threw a couple days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. He threw another inning today. Is he good to go? So now it kind of puts you on the back foot for the rest of the series. And if you're the Mariners, you really got to figure out a way to battle. If you're driving to the ballpark tomorrow as a Mariner player, you got to think, don't let this spiral. You were hot. You were getting lucky breaks, in my opinion. You were beating good baseball teams. You swept the Rangers. The White Sox, obviously not a good baseball team, but you won 3 of 4 from them. You beat the Royals on that Sunday game leading into that big stretch. And now you're starting to see some of the Mariners' problems really come to the surface and bubble over. They obviously lose 2 or 3 to the Guardians. They lose a couple to the Marlins where they could have probably won. And now they lose 1 to the Rays. So if you lose tomorrow, that's another series loss, your 3rd straight series loss. And the Mariners this season have made a living out of winning 2 of 3 on teams and continuing to keep the line moving. 2 of 3, 2 of 3, 2 of 3. 3 of 4, etc. Sweeps are rare with this team. When they happen, obviously great, but what the Mariners have been able to do is they've been able to just take series after series, not go on these really long cold stretches, and that's why they're at where they're at. But now this cold stretch, unfortunately, seems to maybe be coming to a head right now, and the Mariners really have to stop it in its tracks before the snowball effects happen and you slowly see one loss after the next pile up and pile up. When you push that snowball down the hill, it starts small, but the more you let it go, the bigger the impact the snowball eventually has once it's reaching the bottom of the hill. And if you're the Mariners, you got to get someone in there and stop that snowball before it's too late. Because right now, the Mariners, they still are 5.5 games up, but the Astros are hot. And 5.5, not much. It really isn't. You know, it's good, sure, but you were looking at 10, 11, 12 games up as a goal leading into the I can't talk right now, into the All-Star game. And now you're only 5.5 games up. So, yes, are the Mariners in a great spot? Obviously. They're still 9 games above 500. They still got 5.5 on the West. But the Astros, the Rangers are all within 6. And they are coming, and they're coming in strong. You've now lost, you're 5-5 in your last 10, and you really need to lock in and beat these bad baseball teams. You obviously got the Rays, but then you got the Twins, and you got the Orioles, and then the Blue Jays and the Padres. So it's not going to be easy by any means. The Mariners really got to take these games versus the Rays because you had a gift in the Marlins. You blew that one. You got to take at least one of the next 2. Preferably both. And then in the Twins series, you need to find a way to win that as well before facing an Orioles team where even though you're at home, you'd be lucky to come away with 1-3. And I know the Astros just swept them, but that's kind of what the Mariners are at. This offense is not good enough to hang with elite pitching right now. They're not even good enough to hang with mediocre pitching. So you're relying on this pitching staff for the Mariners who's been really, really good. But things like this are going to happen where the bullpen inevitably blows up. This bullpen is not elite by any means. Are they well constructed? Yes. Do they have a great coaching staff that supports them and the ideologies are all great? Yes. Is the bare bones structure of the bullpen good? Yes. But their pure talent is mediocre. Outside of Andres Munoz, you still don't got Santos, and I know he's going to come in soon, but you don't have Gregory Santos yet. You know, you obviously have Brash who's out, and Stanek kind of up and down. So those are your kind of marquee guys. Other than that, you got a lot of solid players. You got Austin Voth, Trent Thornton, Saucedo, etc. But they're not going to scare pitchers. This is not an elite bullpen. Don't let them fool you and think it is. It's a good bullpen that relies on the starting pitching to go deep into ball games and giving them big leads. And the Mariners offense has to do their part to give this bullpen a couple run lead going into the last few innings of the game. And if they did that today, and it was more than just the 2 on 3 runs, 3 hits, the Mariners win this ball game. And when push comes to shove, it's all about winning ball games. And the Mariners have done a good job at winning these close ones, but now you start to see the tide turn the other way. The Mariners lose by 1 run today. They lose by 2 runs yesterday. They get walked off on Friday against the Marlins. They lose a close game on Tuesday against the Guardians. We'll see. We'll see, but you're not playing the White Sox. The White Sox aren't going to beat themselves. The Rays aren't great, but they're pretty average. And their average teams don't beat themselves by like a majority of the time. They're just going to play solid baseball, and if they beat you, they beat you. But what usually they're going to do is they're going to let the other team go play better than them. And they're going to rely on the other team to make mistakes to win. And the Mariners got to go out there, play clean baseball tomorrow, and we will be all right. But the Mariners, once again, 3 hits, not going to cut it. You need to get a bat at the deadline. And you might as well just get a bat now, to be completely honest. So, that's kind of all I got, guys. This is NW Sportscast. If you made it all the way to the end of the Mariners postgame show video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to try to do some more fun videos coming up. Sorry about the lack of post-game shows lately. We're going to try to go back to the everyday routine. I've been at work all 6 days. Levi just got back from his Europe trip. But still, no excuse. We'll be back on the grind. So thank you guys for all your support. This is Drew signing off for now, saying so long. And as always, go Mariners. See you guys.